Hey, welcome to Timber Talk. This is a new podcast series where we're going to be unearthing stories right across the timber sector, from operators to managers to foresters to landowners. We want to cover the spectrum of issues and we want to give you something useful to listen to whilst you're driving or working in the forest. I'm your host, Neil Stoddart, working for Creel Maritime, and this is Timber Talk. Welcome to edition 2 of Timber Talk podcast. We're here on a beautiful winter's afternoon. It's the 1st of December. We've got some Christmas decorations up. We're just outside the Falls of Laura, looking up Loch Etive. What a beautiful location. And I'm here today to speak to Duncan Gillies. Many of you might have seen Duncan on Facebook. He started off down a unique path, talking and thinking about health and well-being within the forest industry for operators, and I just think it's a really great topic, something that isn't talked about enough. So pleased to introduce Duncan. Thanks very much for having us.
Thank you very much for turning up.
No, it's such a beautiful location. It's a real treat. And firstly, Duncan, just tell us a wee bit about yourself. How long you've been in forestry and such like.
As a lot of you probably know by now, been in forestry my whole life since I was 16. Actually started on the saw when I was 13 at weekends with the old man.
Old
Husqvarna 254, could hardly even lift the bloody thing.
Happy days.
So that's where it all began. Cut my teeth all over Cowell. A lot of winch work at the time. And we actually went from the old Chapel Halls to the Timber Masters, then progressed to 2. And that's when like the grab machine came in, and then processors, and I always remember at the time actually when before I started, there was a guy, Andy Sutherland, used to
I've heard that name as well.
Used to process behind the winch with an old Logma.
Right,
just a
sliding boom job.
That's the one. That's the one. Just that's where it all started, and just gradually, I was on the saw for years, done a bit of chokering, worked the winch for a long time, and just worked my way up onto the grab machine, onto the processor, and then I can't exactly remember when the first big crash, big slowdown happened in the woods, and all the guys were restricted to whatever it was, a couple of ton a week.
And
that was at the time when we had to get rid of the winches and try my hand at harvesting. So the processor, the Doosan we had at the time, didn't have skis, didn't have grousers or anything.
It was mainly for roadside,
just for roadside processing. So that was us into A&B Services, got it kitted out for the woods. Bought an old 1410 from Joe and Phil Stewart. And
not names here, I'm remembering.
And gave it a bash. So it was that. I was that green, and I'd never seen it done before. I didn't have a clue how harvesting, how to harvest a tree. I was actually, I was felling stuff to the from my left was getting processed in the right, and I was grabbing the stuff from the right and processing it in my left. It was just like herringboning it up. I hadn't a bloody clue, but I gradually worked my way up, and then eventually, so over the years, I always felt like I wanted to give it a go myself, and I was always passionate, more so for the harvesting than the winch side of it. And 2017 decided to, bugger it, I'm going to go out on my own.
Right.
And I would like to say I've never looked back.
Good. Good stuff. So a leap of faith, and so what's in the fleet just now?
So I've actually just bought, this time last year, I bought my first ever Tiger Cat back.
Right, okay.
Bought it back from Louis Johnson.
I know
Louis Johnson. So I'd heard it was just sitting, not doing a lot of work. I decided at the time, the type of work I was getting, the trees were getting smaller, the quality was getting smaller. Historically over the last few years, jobs are getting slightly worse, and timber size is getting slightly smaller. So I thought the the kind of answer would be go down the wheeled route. So I sold my big, I had a climbing Tiger Cat at the time.
Yeah.
So I went away to Northumberland and spent a year trying to decide the best route.
Great part of the world, by the way.
And so got to the stage where I finally realised the wheeled machines weren't for me.
Really?
Yeah.
So you didn't like the wheeled machine then? Was it the slew power or terrain ability, or what was the problem?
There was a few reasons. Don't get me wrong. There was a hell of a lot I did like about them. Comfort being one of them. Speed being another. But I'm not saying anything here that no one doesn't already know. I just didn't like this driving in and out every morning, every night to fuel up, to grease up. If you can't carry hoses, you can hardly carry any spares or anything.
What, just like room in the machine?
Room in the machine. I mean, obviously,
you're spoilt with a Tiger Cat getting in the back.
And I just got to the point where I kind of realised I was missing the tracks. I think I'm just one of these people that prefers tracks. So another bit of time went past. I was doing a bit of work for my brother, a bit of subbing, and it just got to the stage I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to have to buy another set of tracks again. So I'd heard that the Louis machine wasn't doing much. And gave him a wee shout, and there you go.
Aye, good.
I mean, I felt bad to the couple of companies that I had, had the pleasure of using their machines, but that's just the way it goes in the woods. It happens to them all.
And what are you using forward-wise?
I've got a 2019 Elephant Active frame, kind of low-hour thing, so it's done a lot of running from the winch. So it's actually quite a nice machine.
Good on fuel as well.
I can't fault it as an all-rounder.
Good. Spot on. Spot on.
Sure.
That's really interesting. And just before going to the main topic of today's podcast, I mean, how are you finding things in the wood? Unfortunately, we've all got a little bit of sawdust in our veins, and we keep going at it, whether that's on the management side or you guys out in the coalface in the forest. But it's not an easy industry.
No.
We had boom times during COVID. Wood was moving. We're probably back to high roadside stocks, which means big overdrafts or getting a sub or whatever. So just generally, how are things?
Well, currently not very good. I've been sitting for a couple of weeks.
Right, I shouldn't have asked that.
I'll not mention any names. So at this present moment in time, not great. But this is what happens now and again. Just waiting for jobs to start, and that's all it is. Just between the harvesting company and the commission, just trying to.
Yeah, and I've to be honest, I've been on the other side of the fence throughout my career, and it can be very frustrating. There can be certain permissions, bits of paper. A lot of what I did was private sector. You're waiting on the landowner or the landowner's agent or somebody in London or even Hong Kong signing something to get the job started. And you can have everything in place and you're just held back. So it's a frustrating industry from that point of view.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a lot. That's just one of the things that can stack against you. But for me, currently, I do feel there is a lot that is out with our control, whether we're making money or not. So that can be down to licenses, it can be down to birds, squirrels,
of course.
It can be down to a haulier that's broken down, guys on holiday. There's just
I know a famous quote which I shouldn't really repeat, but one of my co-harvesting managers, and I'll not name names myself, but we got the results of a wildlife survey, and the harvesting manager brought it through and put it on my desk and said, it's not a felon license we need for this wood, it's a shotgun license. And that everything that was identified was just delay, constraints, more licenses, more site meetings. It's getting harder and harder. There's no doubt about it. 100%. And then I don't know if you've seen the effect, certainly with some of the work I do now, seasonality as well. People don't want you in during the summer bird nesting, and in this part of the world, it'll be dark here at 3:30. It's cold today. You're not going to get the long hours in, but we're actually being forced to work some jobs during the winter when ideally we want to be there while it's dry and light till 10 o'clock at night. So there's lots of challenges.
I mean, sometimes you do wonder why they're throwing certain jobs at you at certain times of the year, and others at other parts of the year.
Now we go back 30 years, and everything was at a slower pace, right? So, and contractors weren't producing as much. We didn't have a big sawmills, but there was always a plan. The old generation foresters would say, we'll fell that in the summer and we'll keep that low-lying coop for the winter. We don't seem to have that now. We don't seem to, because of all the other challenges, we've got to take what we can get when we can get it. So, yeah.
And you also find now as well with the modern day managers and the likes, there's the old school guys had a lot more common sense.
Of course.
You know, so you would be cutting a coop next to a bit that had blown from previous years up the edge of a burn, or between, maybe had a wee island out in its own, and you'll say, at the time, just a few years ago, you could say, look, while we're here, we could shift these tapes, and we'll get that while we're here. It might not be the prettiest bit, but it'll tidy it all up. No problem. We'll get that done. And not now.
Honestly, it frustrates me, and I'm not directly involved in harvesting, but you see it all the time. Edges, there's a machine here, let's get it done. No, it's not in the plan.
No,
it's crazy.
I know,
crazy.
But no, there's definitely a lot of things stacked against us nowadays.
Yeah,
I think it would probably be easier if you did have a fleet of machines, because, like at times like this, this set of machines, 2 operators, would just get plonked on another site.
Another site, of course. Just double it up.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Well, listen, we've talked a wee bit about machines there, and I think getting to the nub of what we're going to discuss today, everybody, I think, in the forest, listen, whether you're driving a harvester, you're running a forwarder, running a timber truck, or whether it be a lever handling machine you're looking after, we're all used to daily maintenance. We used to pre-use checks. We're used to making sure that job is fit for purpose and it's going to get you through the day and be productive. We're used to servicing more than ever. We're on service plans or R&M contracts. That's great for the machines, Duncan, isn't it? But I think what you've started touching upon is the human element. And do any of us, and that's from managers driving pickups all day, the guys sat in machines, are we looking after ourselves? Are we doing enough for our own health and well-being? And it's a tricky subject. You've touched on it on Facebook, and haters will always hate, and foresters by nature, people in the woods, want to put their chests out, right? And they're hard men, they're not going to eat bananas and nuts and berries, right? But we're all killing ourselves slowly, and that needs to change. So tell us how you got into thinking along these lines.
I had, like a lot of guys at the moment, I had my own struggles around 2019. I was always fairly active. I always liked to get in and out the machine and mark racks, and I always found myself, if I got put on a machine for too long, the weight would start to balloon. So then I would advertise for an operator, put the operator on the machine, and I would go on the saw again, and everything would be tickety-boo.
Shed it again,
But actually, there was a long, hard winter we experienced just the other side of Oban, and I was in the saw like all winter trying to keep ahead of the 1270. And I actually ended up having to get double carpal tunnel surgery. So that,
Scuppered going on the saw, right?
So that was my saw days, kind of.
Mind, you've been on it since you were 13.
Unofficially, So I kind of had to resort to the fact that, machines or nothing. Don't get me wrong, I do like and still enjoy the saw now and again, but it wouldn't be for a full winter.
No.
So, back in the machine again, and the weight just started to kind of creep on again. I was actually working away from home at the time in the Archer Hotel. Managed to get some nice cheap digs, and it was a case of up at 3 a.m, coffee, a couple of complimentary packs of shortbread,
of course,
straight out the door. Worked the harvester for a good few hours until the other guy arrived, and as soon as he arrived, I would shoot back to the hotel, full Scottish, get my flask filled, back out for the day in the saw.
Right.
And then 6 o'clock at night, finish for the day, back to the hotel, 2-course dinner, 2 pints, and a few months down the line, and I found myself, we were going through photos at my mum and dad's house out in Tynalt one Sunday. We're all having a good laugh at these old pictures and stuff, and I realised how I used to look, and I kind of quietly said nothing and decided that I needed to kind of reach out, because I've been there before. Like, I've always tried to lose the weight, but if you're sedentary, it is difficult. You know, I'll go like for it. You know, I'll go and buy the trainers. I'll buy all the new kit. I'll join the gym.
Yeah.
Lucky if I get a few months in.
Aye, well, January's coming up. It's usual.
Yeah. And then I end up with this gym membership that's running for months and I'm not going, and you just lose motivation. And it's always because I've just kept it to myself. I want to like show everyone how I've transformed, how I've changed, and it never worked. So at that point I thought, do you know what? I'm going to reach out and just find someone. And, you know, I'm not embarrassed about that fact. I needed help. And I wasn't massively overweight. You know, I was needing to lose a stone and a half or so.
You've just touched on something there, though. Just getting that out, because there's so many of us don't want to listen. It's a well-known, men don't like to talk, and especially don't want to talk about things like that.
Yeah.
What you said there, just getting it out there and not be embarrassed, and not be embarrassed about trying to get fit, because again, in our industry, people don't want to.
No.
They'd rather say, "Oh, I want 2 eggs on my roll." You know what I mean? So what you've said there is amazing. Like,
I mean, you know, there's no shame in it. We all need help with one thing and another, and you know, throughout your lives. That's where I needed a bit of guidance. So yeah, decided to reach out. Found a coach who specialised in over 35 men, busy working men.
Wow.
I thought, right,
locally, like, did you find that?
No, he was actually in Glasgow. Never met the man in my life. Got in touch with him. He set up a WhatsApp call, and we kind of just hit it off. And I thought, you know what, he's speaking, you know, saying the right sort of things.
Yeah.
And by this time, I was staying in a caravan in Tynebruch. And this is when we found the real difficulties starting to arise. You know, he was used to working with busy men, but busy men that had a gym nearby,
around the corner.
You know,
yeah.
So that wasn't available to me. So a few weeks went by and we tried this, we tried that. So I ended up, I bought a weighted vest, I bought some exercise bands, and that was pretty much it. I had my water containers for the caravan. I had the generator that, you know, do rows with. I was going out with bits of pulp on my shoulder and doing squats.
Wow.
I was hanging. There was a deer carcass pole outside the local gamekeeper's caravan. So I was going up at night and doing pull-ups and that. And then every other night I would maybe take the bike down to the shore, right down to Orr Ferry, and just things like that. So
it made a difference.
And the only reason it did was because I had someone to answer to.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was,
of course.
You know, and I put it out there this time. He said, tell your family, tell your friends what you're doing. Because if you don't and you keep it to yourself, who's going to know that you failed?
Aye, but you've just stopped.
Yeah.
Because it's just normal. Yeah.
So I told everyone what I was up to, and I did get a bit of support. And I also found when the weight started to come off and I started to actually feel good and look, you know, the way I wanted to, that there was the odd comment, nah, you're too thin, or, blah, blah, blah. And I have found since working with other people over the last year as well, that's generally down to people with their own insecurities that like to just have a little dig at you. And that's what you do need to expect, a bit of that.
Yeah.
But with the extra confidence that you gain from starting to feel good and look good and the mentality's better, you know, you're sleeping better, you're eating better because you have to eat a little bit better, comes a stronger mentality. You can cope with comments, and
so you feel better in yourself generally.
Yeah. So
absolutely, that's transformational, isn't it? Because if you're mentally strong, you can handle a lot of things. Yeah.
And I've found that's transferred to other aspects of my life, through the business, or, you know, if there's a certain challenge comes up, you're more inclined to just say, do you know what, let's take it on, go for it, instead of shying away from it.
You're a bit more optimistic, like positive,
100%
positivity, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's even today, right, driving up here from Glasgow, and I stopped in a garage, and I'm a bit of a mornings only, but I'm a bit of a coffee freak. At 3 or 4 in the morning, and try and knock it on the head at lunchtime. Otherwise, I don't sleep. But yeah, I reached for the whisper, and I thought, I'm going to see Duncan. And I went for some fruit and nuts in a wee bag, you know.
Good on
and
you.
It's just that's what little things, right? Little things. And we know the likes of David Brailsford at Sky Cycling said it was a small, small increments make the big difference. So small changes, and I think we'll come on to that next, just to discuss what people could do. great listening to your own personal journey, and obviously, as you said, feeling positive. That is, if you could bottle that, right? That's what people want. We want to be positive. We want to feel good about ourselves.
Yep.
And we want to feel good about how we look and how we feel. Not always possible.
Yep.
And I've been breathing in more and more as I'm sitting here thinking, Jesus, I need to do something, and I do. But what simple, hacks can you give us? A lot of guys, our audience, truck drivers, machine operators, staying in caravans. Yeah, again, as I said, the whole macho thing, we're working 15 hours a day, we've only got time for a microwave meal, sleeping, we're back in the machine. But let's be honest, we're not all doing that.
Yep.
There's time for a stroll, it's time for half an hour every evening, 10 minutes every evening. So what would be your best tips and hacks to get people started and see how we go?
So the thing that worked for me, and the thing that is notorious, it's been proven, is sticking to small actionable habits, but try not to jump in with both feet too soon and you fail. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't go too big too quick. So things like, for 2 weeks, I think it takes something like, is it 36 weeks or something like that for a habit to actually be set in stone.
Right.
So if you're putting too many habits in on day one, you're going to fail. But the way that the coach that I worked with, and I know numerous other coaches work, is they'll just give you one habit and they'll say, just stick to that for 2 weeks or a month. Just keep doing it every day. So it could be up your water intake. So aim for a minimum of 2 litres a day. Right. Okay. So that also, it makes you piss more.
I was going to say, I stop in the machine every 20 minutes.
Subsequently, the benefits of that is also it gets you off your arse because you need to jump out for a piss every 5 minutes.
Absolutely, aye. 2 litres, that seems a lot, but that's recommended.
So, first thing in the morning, glass of water, that's probably what you want to do.
Right.
That just fires the metabolism and all the rest of it. Starts the bodily movements. But water also lubricates joints and everything as well.
Right.
So it's great if you are sedentary and you're just sitting with, not doing much. So you can up your water intake, do that for a couple of weeks. Then I would say something like, try and eat a portion of protein with every single meal.
Right.
So a lot of guys will just have, say, they get up in the morning, cup of tea, bit of toast. There's no protein there.
Yeah.
So you're going to get hungry straight away.
Right.
The bread will also, what happens is the bread is full of sugar. So it actually converts to glucose pretty quickly.
You're getting this rush.
And it just gives you that spike. And then later on in the day, your energy just goes through the floor and you're craving something sweet by that point. So you always want to try and get protein with every meal.
Okay.
Another, so you want to do that for maybe 2 weeks, in the third week. Just adopt that habit. And then I would say try and get veggies with every meal. There's also things you can do. If you have a side salad with every single meal, not, it could be a mini cucumber, it could be a tomato, it could be whatever tickles your fancy. If you eat a fibrous bit of veg before you eat anything else on your plate, it lines I think it's actually your intestine, goes through your stomach, and it coats it with fibre, which stops that further spike of insulin. So, so if you just say first thing in the morning you had sweet pancakes, sugar, carbs, starch, that is just you're gonna crash later on in the day.
I've got you. Yeah.
So I found that,
so keep it simple and
whole foods. So you don't want to be eating too many processed foods. So whole foods where you can.
Yeah.
Everything's processed to a degree, but as whole foods as you can. So proteins like chicken, fish, tins of fish. Are great.
Aye. Yeah.
Eggs. Yogurt, cottage cheese, anything like that. But yeah, it's just sticking to the small habits.
Small increments again. Yeah.
So you don't want to join a gym, buy your new shoes, go
which is what
hell
we
for
all do
leather.
January.
Yep, and you completely change your diet because you're not going to stick to it.
That's a fact.
No chance.
Yeah.
So, I found when we moved in here, I was that busy with, what it's like when you move in a new house
and stuff.
And I couldn't. I couldn't. I probably could have found the time to train, but I did find my own excuses, which we all do.
Mm-hmm.
But by this time, I had enough, nutritional habits and dietary habits to see me through the times when you aren't managing to train as hard.
Yeah.
So because they were just set in stone, everything else, it just felt like everything else was just fell into place. It wasn't like I had to go hell for leather in the gym.
So so build it up in layers over a period of time. Yep. Start with water, start with improving your diet.
Yep.
Maybe 6 months, well, bring in some exercise. But I'm a classic. I've had more gym memberships than get out in January. Go for it big style. Swimming, gym, exercise bikes, weights.
Yep.
And then after 6 weeks, nothing because you're fed up with it all.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, if the majority of machine operators will not be doing anything right now.
Correct. Totally sedentary, probably.
Completely, aye. Yeah. No, that doesn't. I'm not speaking for everyone, but there will be a hell of a lot of guys that just don't do a single thing, and that's just where they're at. That's fine. That's all they've ever known. And the reason, there's various reasons for that. We're all here to cut timber. We're all here to shift wood, and it's all about the money. And there is always that bravado thing. Who can do the most hours? Who can cut the most amount of timber?
Yeah.
But that might be a good for your pocket. It's definitely not good for your health.
No, or your head ultimately.
Aye. Yeah, it's definitely not good for the mental health either. But for guys that are completely sedentary, the first thing I would say is don't go and buy a Peloton bike and to think this is the answer.
No.
Just get up off your arse 3 times a day for 10 minutes. Just walk for 10 minutes a day.
Simple.
10 minutes 3 times a day. There's half an hour.
Yeah.
So over the course of a week, there's 3.5 hours more than you were ever doing before.
Yeah.
And
if you're scrambling about on a brash mat as part of that, it's even more of a workout. Aye.
And also the bonus, there is you're actually building a habit.
This habit thing, isn't it? You keep
so
back to that.
if you start finding the time just to go for that 10 minutes 3 times a day, and you stick to that, and it becomes part of your routine, the weight will start to drop off. You won't lose muscle because, say, you go for a jog.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of between the ages of 30 and 40, for most people, you start to lose muscle mass.
Yeah. So
if you go for it, stick your shoes on and just run, you're going to lose muscle. It's going to affect your muscle mass. So we don't want to do that.
No. It's gradual.
But walking won't affect that.
Mm-hmm.
So walking will actually improve your cardiovascular health and not affect your muscle mass.
Yeah. So
once that habit's there and it's second nature to you, then you could start thinking, I'm doing this. I'm doing this every day, or I'm going for a walk after my dinner. Maybe I could now join a gym, and maybe just start by lifting weights once a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
or doing something like that.
Something
on
like
site. You mentioned something earlier. Just find something to lift or something to pull yourself up on, or
yeah.
But build up to that. Don't jump in straight away.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember when I started MMA, one of the fittest, strongest, most well-built guys there was a stonemason, and I was like, oh, you must go to the gym a lot. He says, no, do you know what I do? He says, just every day I do something with a big rock, whether that's pressing it above my head, lifting it up, and I just make a point, 10 minutes doing something with whatever big.
Tractor tires or something. I've seen people flipping them up and down the road.
So he's just making the best of what he had. I did used to think, that's not a bad idea,
No, I mean it's really interesting. Small steps, but form a habit.
Yeah, you've got to form that habit,
and then build those habits up in layers. Yep. So, I think starting from the worst case scenario, I had a guy worked for me, an operator through a contractor, and I think his daily diet in the machine was a 2-litre bottle of Iron Brew and I'm not joking, a 6-pack of crisps every day, every day. And then they ended up with, health problems, and it wasn't a surprise to any of us. Now, I think he got that turned around.
Yep.
But we could all probably stop and look at ourselves, me included. I'm probably one of the worst. I don't eat breakfast. I drink coffee, dashing about, and I don't like salad. So you just drift on by. But small steps, and we owe it to ourselves and to our families. Try and stay healthy. And this thing you touched on there, bravado. Whether you're in a machine on a building site or in the woods, there's this thing, you've got to be seen to be working hard. But one thing that stuck with me is you don't go into many cemeteries anywhere around the country and see written on the headstone, I wish I spent more time at work.
Oh, true.
You don't see that, right? The 10, number one, wishes of a dying is I wish I'd spent more time with my family. I wish I'd been healthier. I wish I'd spent more time. So we've all got to stop and reflect on that. And I think some of the things you've touched on are brilliant. Just small steps, we can all get there. And we'll revisit this. We'll do another podcast in a few months' time once we get some better weather.
Mm-hmm.
But meantime, Duncan, what can people do? So you've been on this kind of road, and you've reaped the benefits. And are you going to take this forward? Can you help others? Because there's a whole forestry sector out there. There's a lot of guys, whether management or in machines or whatever, trucks, that I think would benefit from your advice. We've only touched on a few things. So how you plan to take this forward?
So I mean, obviously, when I kind of transformed, my mentality, my body, everything, and I'm not like, I don't currently have a six pack, and I don't intend to ever have a six pack again, because that as well is extreme and isn't healthy. So I'm just, when I got to that stage where I made enough changes to make myself happier and healthier and blah blah blah, I did start to think, can I help other people? And actually, when I made all these changes, I was, a few years ago, I was actually having people, other like lorry drivers or a forwarder operator or someone saying, "Oh, so how did you get that? Or what have you got in your piece today? Or what's that? So that did trigger the spark the idea of possibly branching out, retraining, and so I decided then to go down the route of training as a personal trainer.
Nice one. Right.
So that,
so you're looking to develop that
hopefully.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of our audience, which hopefully is growing as we do more podcasts. Now, people aren't going to jump on and message at the bottom of this YouTube video or when they're listening in the car. That's not in our nature. I think there was one of our lecturers at forestry school said one of the traits of a forester or people who work in forestry is that we're comfortable being on our own, right? And we're kind of lonely people.
Yep.
A little bit insular. Mm-hmm. So nobody's going to jump on and say, Duncan, can you help me? But they will want to get in touch with you. Yep. So, as we move forward, we'll share your contacts and people can, because people will want to speak to you, want to personally message you. They won't do that in public, but I think there's a great opportunity, and I think you can help the whole industry, to be fair.
Yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, I do know that it wasn't easy.
No.
But it wasn't overly hard.
No.
It's
baby steps, isn't
definitely it? Baby steps, learning from someone that's been there. So the coach that I had, he was walking the walk. He was fit, he was healthy, and he had implemented all these habits, daily habits, and he stuck to them. And it wasn't like his life was boring.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, but I think having a a personal trainer or mentor or somebody to stay in contact with, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is, it's kind of like a reporting structure.
Aye.
So you've got to do it, otherwise you're only conning yourself.
Aye.
And if you don't have that structure, back to joining the gym, going mental for 6 weeks and then stopping, well, nobody's interested. You're only conning yourself again.
Exactly.
And I think if there's a structure there and you're working with someone, you can maintain that impetus and keep it going. So
100%.
I think everyone out there will be really interested to hear how you're going to take this on. And I know you mentioned earlier you're going to do some media, some stuff in magazines, and I think it's great. It's going to take off for you. There'll be a lot of people interested. So
hopefully, like also I was saying to you off camera as well. It's not something that I would expect is going to make me the millions.
No.
But it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Oh, we're used to that working.
I have not much chance at it anyway.
No,
maybe this is that.
Exactly, it might be a big girl.
So no, just purely from a passionate point of view, without sounding fucking.
No, but like again, it's you getting over that as well. People do want, you've got to you can break through that, and some of the stuff you've had on Facebook, you read it, and some people are gonna try and take the piss here, but deep down they won't be. Deep down they're thinking, I need to be doing this, and really, if you've got an outlet and it's a bit more private, people do want to improve, and we've all got to like.
There's always like you say, there's always going to be haters.
Yeah.
And to be honest, anyone that's there that wants to be negative online, that's cool. That's up to them. But maybe they've got something that they're probably not too confident about. Maybe there's something going on that makes them feel the need to want to speak out and make them, I don't know, look important and try and put me down. But to be honest, as long as I can help a few people, you know, like I say, I've been there. I was unhappy. I was unfit. I was, you know, I felt kind of lost at times.
Yeah.
And I always remember, you know, I'm 42 now. I always remember how I felt when I was 23. You know, 22.
Yeah.
You know, you're walking. You're.
Oh yeah. You can take on anything.
Aye. You're invincible.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I probably feel better. No,
you certainly look well. You sound well. So. I think we'll wrap things up there, Duncan. Like, that's been really, really insightful, and I think you'll have stimulated a lot of people just to think about what they're doing, think about how they're living their lives, think about the time they spend in machines, and be more productive. And if you're healthy, fit, and positive, you're going to be more positive at your work, and ultimately you will be more productive, and have a longer lifespan doing that. So we're going to revisit this. We'll be back, whether it's back here. Beautiful location, or maybe we'll be out in the forest. But we'll carry this on. So thank you very much for your time.
Hopefully I've got something to plug by then.
Absolutely, it sounds like you will. And thanks very much.
Well, thank you.
All right, take care.
Thanks.